The bell for us represents, I know it was put up to represent the missions on El Camino Real, but to us, they represent the oppression of our people, the attempts to destroy us. And so with the mission of our leader, Valentin Lopez, we are able to remove this first bell. And to start off, I would like to do the opening blessing. Can everyone stand? And if you can you join hands? Creator, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our lives. Creator, we ask you to bless this day. Creator, we thank you for the safe travels for all these people here, that they are safe and are meant to be here. We also pray for those who are still coming. Creator, on this day of summer solstice, a day of new beginnings and healing, we also ask for healing of the people who oppressed us, who try to destroy us. We ask that you heal them also, because they have their wound also, as we do. Creator, I want to thank you for our tribal leader, Valentin Lopez, and all the work he does for the Amah Mutsun, and for the work that he did to bring this bell down. Creator, we thank you for our relatives, not only our people and all people, but for the animals and for the plants, for the trees, for everything in this world. Creator, may we all heal and heal them also. Creator, we love you, we thank you. We thank you for everything. Ho. So now I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Sarah Latham. She's the Vice Chancellor for Business and Administrative Services for UC Santa Cruz. Sarah has been a friend of our tribe during her time here at UC Santa Cruz. She listens carefully to our tribe's reason for requesting that the bell be removed. On behalf of UC leadership, she worked with us to make this a very important and possible day. Sarah.
Thank you very much, Nora. Welcome on behalf of UC Santa Cruz. It's such a pleasure to finally reach this day. It has been a long time in the making. I want to first acknowledge and recognize all the members of our campus community who have come out today, our students, our faculty, our staff, especially those who work and represent groups and organizations on our campus that work to advance diversity and inclusion. I also want to thank and recognize the many city and county officials and leaders that have come out today, including our elected officials. Welcome. Very importantly, though, I would like to recognize the chairman of the Amah Mutsun, Valentin Lopez, and all the other tribal leaders and members that have come to join us today. I'm going to just say a few remarks on behalf of the campus. I first met Val 2 years ago. I co-chair the Long Range Development Planning Committee, the group that looks out to the future to identify land use designations. So where should future academic space go? Where should future housing go? I co-chair that with Kim Lau. She is the chair of the Academic Senate. And at our first kickoff meeting, we thought it would be helpful to have speakers come and talk about the history of the land on which our campus sits. And one of the people we invited to speak with us was Val. And he gave a very engaging and rich and informative session for us. But it was something he mentioned at the very end of his comments that struck us very deeply. He talked about this bell right here, a bell that many of us didn't even know was on campus. And he talked about the symbol of this bell to not only the Amah Mutsun, but to other Native and Indigenous populations. And he said that to them, this bell represents a very painful history of oppression. As we listened to other voices in the months to come, we heard that sentiment echoed over and over again. And so we began the process of researching where this exact bell came from, doing a lot of outreach to individuals. And we shared with them exactly what Val shared with us about how to many in our community, this represents a very painful symbol. Now, we recognize as an educational institution, different people can look at the same historical artifact or marker and look at it through very different lenses, depending on their own lived experiences and the lived experiences of their ancestors. Some might pass by this bell and just view it as a marker, but others every day when they pass by this bell, view it as a very powerful and painful symbol of the things that have happened to not only them, but their ancestors that came before them. Oftentimes those voices have not been heard and their histories have not been told in the classrooms and in the textbooks that many of us studied growing up in California. And it's very important that we partner with people to be able to give space, to have those voices be heard, those histories be heard, and that pain be heard. And that we don't just listen, but we actually acknowledge it. And then we figure out what to do with it. And so it's that spirit that at UC Santa Cruz, as we work to create a more diverse and inclusive community, that we recognize the fact that there are words and there are actions and there are symbols in and on our campus that result in our own students and our own faculty and our own staff feeling that they are not heard, they are not seen, that they are not valued, and that they are not included. And that their stories and that their history is not acknowledged and not told. And when we find opportunities to address that and help heal that pain, we must take action. So it is in that spirit that we gather here today after 2 very long years. I thank Val for his leadership and his tenacity. He's been a wonderful partner in this journey. And thank you very much for including me, and welcome. And I would just also point out, for those stepping in this area, there's a couple of banana slugs over here, so walk with care. So, because they're also members of our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Nora. Thank you very much, everybody, and welcome.
Okay, so next I get to introduce our tribal leader, Valentine Lopez. I guess I get to say what I want. Valentine has been a great leader. He brought us to this moment. He fights for our tribe. He tries to bring back our traditions. He doesn't try, he does. Bring back our traditions, our way of life, the purpose for why we are here. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce Valentine Lopez.
Mis mitrudas, kan Rakat Valentine Lopez, kan listen ni pide a waswaswak. I want to thank you for being here this morning. Before I speak, I'd like to recognize some people who are here. We have 5 members from the Santa Cruz City Council, and that's really powerful. There are mission bells on Santa Cruz City property today, and we hope to schedule a meeting with them soon and ask that the mission bells on the city be removed as well. Those 5 city council members are Sandy Brown, Drew Glover, Justin Cummins, Chris Crone, and Cynthia Matthews. Thank you very much for being here. I also want to recognize Rachel Dan, who works for Supervisor Ryan Coonerty from the Santa Cruz County. And we hope to talk to the Santa Cruz County about our greater effort to have the bells removed and other symbols of the destruction and domination of Native peoples. Finally, I want to recognize one professor, Diane Gifford Gonzales. Diane, she's back there. Is she going to raise her hand? Oh, there she is. The reason I want to give special recognition to her is that here on campus, we have the remains of our ancestors who have been here since the campus has been built. And getting the remains returned from a campus is nearly impossible. But many years ago, Diane and Judith and others on campus, John Denke included, and others, have worked hard to try and find a path to have our ancestors returned to us so that we can bury them with ceremony, so they can pass to the other side and be with their relatives and be in peace. And in August of this year, Diane and I are going, and Amy, hi Amy, I didn't see you there, are going to Alaska to present at the Native American Grace Protection and Repatriation Committee, and that's the final step before getting those remains returned. So we hope that whenever Diane and I come back from Alaska, that we will have the approval to have those remains returned to our tribe so that they can be buried with ceremony. And that's, for our tribe, that's the most important priority of our tribe, is getting our ancestors who have passed back and have them returned to the other side. So I'd like to give acknowledgement for Diane as well. And all who helped, of course, and all who helped. I want to especially thank Vice Chancellor Sarah Latham, who worked hard for us and with us. And the students and the faculty and the administrators for listening and understanding the importance of removing the El Camino Real mission bell. The bell says, El Camino Real, the road of the king. This bell pays tribute to the King of Spain and to the mission times that were here on these lands of California. The El Camino Real was actually built on indigenous trails and trade routes that were used by the indigenous people of California for thousands of years. The way the story of the El Camino Real is presented, as if though they came through, the Spanish soldiers came through with machetes and paved, and made a path through all the bush and everything else here. And that's what allowed them to enter here. Those were actually indigenous trade routes that were used for thousands of years. To the Amah, Mutsun, and most California Indians, the El Camino Real represents the destruction and domination of California Indian culture, spirituality, environments, and humanity. The El Camino Real represents the theft of our lands. The El Camino Real represents incarceration, slavery, brutality, torture, rape, fear, and terror. And the El Camino Real represents the death of nearly 100,000 California Indians along the coast. In all honesty, it is confusing for our tribe to understand how the state of California can recognize any part of mission history as something that is to be honored, glorified, and to be proud of. The state of California has tried to forget, ignore, and erase the history of California peoples. The state of California, the Catholic Church, and local communities continue today to benefit and profit from our destruction and our domination. Both the missions and state parks that are at the mission sites, they charge admission to enter the facilities to learn about how the priests treated the Indians as children, and to learn how the Indians came to the missions voluntarily, to learn agriculture, to find a better life, and to find God. Those stories that they tell at the missions. They don't tell that our people were here for 10, 12, 15,000 years or more. They don't tell that our people were here for 800, 900, perhaps 1,000 generations or more. They don't talk that our history, that our creation story tells us that it was our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth and all living things. And we knew how to take care of the plants, the four-legged, the wing, the fin, the air, the water, the fog. Those are things that our people learned in a sacred way to take care of, to steward, and to ensure their sustainability. We saw that the Creator made the world perfect, and it was our obligation to take care of it that way. And most importantly, the land is sacred. The land is sacred. It is not meant for us to destroy, for us to dominate, for us to conquer. That's not what it's for. We are to have a sacred relationship with the land. The same way we take care of our babies, our brothers, our parents, our elders, with love, with kindness, with gentleness. That's the way we are to take care of Mother Earth, not with domination and destruction. That wasn't in my notes. Now it is time to tell the truth so Indigenous people can heal from their historic trauma. And the way our tribe talks about historic trauma is, if you imagine the slavery, the brutality, the rape, the whippings, etc. at the missions, how do parents teach their children how to have love, to have optimism, to have hope, to know that tomorrow is going to be better, to know that they're good people? How do parents teach their children that when every day is nothing but fear and terror and hoping to survive one more day? And imagine doing that for 4, 5, 6, 7 generations. What does that do to the parents' ability to raise their children, to have hope, to know who they are, to have strong identity, to have self-esteem, to know their purpose for being here? That's what was ripped for us, starting with that mission times. That's what was ripped for us. And that's what we need to heal from, that historic trauma. And all healing begins with telling the truth and listening with your heart, not just with your ears, and allowing the people to tell their story. But one of the most important parts of healing is to recognize that perpetrators must heal as well. The Amah Mutsun believe that Indigenous people will not heal until all perpetrators are healed. Can you imagine that? How can we heal as Indigenous people when they can't even tell the truth of the history, and they try to erase you and ignore you and forget you? But until they recognize the truth, until they tell the truth, until they start working on their healing, can we as Indigenous people heal? Perpetrators such as the Catholic Church, Spain, Mexico, cities, counties, and state of California in the United States, they all must recognize that they need to heal from their soul wound that resulted from their brutal histories. The destruction of California Indians never ended. It never came to an end. It just evolved to the oppressive and immoral laws that exist today. The laws that refuse to allow the return of our ancestors' remains that are held at many of the universities and museums across the country. They allow the destruction of our cultural and sacred sites so that they can build their shopping centers and these big development projects, all for money, and ignoring the spirituality of the lands or the people that are buried there. In California, if 3 burial grounds are found, they make a determination: are they Native American or are they not Native American? If they're not Native American, that the construction project cannot continue. It's recognized as a cemetery, and they cannot develop on a cemetery that is not native. But if those three remains are determined to be Native American, they can just rip those remains out and any other remains they come across and continue their destruction, continue with their development. Not that many years ago, we had to bring up 188 remains of ancestors so that they could put a Safeway market there. And we had to do a reburial of 188 remains. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done as chair. But yet those are the laws that are on the books. We are not treated equal. We are not treated equal. As an federally unrecognized tribe, whenever we hold ceremony, it is illegal for federally unrecognized tribes to hold ceremony. And they, whenever they outlawed spiritual practices of Native tribes, when they outlawed the spirituality practices of Native American tribes, that applied to all Indians. Whenever Jimmy Carter passed the Restoration of Native American Freedom of Religious Act, or something very close to that, that applied to federally recognized tribes. Never has our right to have our spiritual practices and our ceremonies been restored. It is illegal, and we're in line to be arrested, I can tell you that. Our tribe has been holding bi-monthly wellness meetings for over 9 years. We have learned a lot during this time. We have learned about telling the truth, that how the truth is important, is critical to healing. And we have addressed issues such as suicide, rape, molestation, adoption, and so many other painful things that are all a result of that brutal history, that historic trauma we talk about. Those are the things that resulted. And we have sent letters to the popes, presidents, governors, governmental leaders, telling them that they must heal from their soul wound, and that we would like to work with them on that healing. And not once has anyone responded to say, let's meet, let's talk together. What do you mean? Let's understand this. What can we do? Not once has that happened. That's what makes today such a huge, huge deal. This is the first time we've ever had an institution recognize the importance of correcting the past and beginning the healing process. On Tuesday, Governor Newsom apologized to California Indians, and he called for a Truth and Healing Council to be established. Normally, the Amah Mutsun do not accept apologies. We have learned that when popes, bishops, or others apologize, it basically means, we apologize, now will you shut up? That's what we hear with apologies. Apologies must be followed with actions. Governor Newsom called for a Truth and Healing Council. This can make his apology different, and we hope so. But it must not only be California Indians who need to tell the truth and to heal. As you've heard already, perpetrators must tell the truth. Perpetrators must recognize that symbols of destruction and domination must be removed and replaced with markers that tell the truth and acknowledge and respect indigenous people that lived on these lands for thousands of years. When we talked about removing the mission bell here, we talked about replacing it with a plaque. And we hope to talk about that and have that soon. In 2015, Pope Francis was in Ecuador just a few months prior to the canonization of Junipero Serra. And there, Pope Francis apologized to the indigenous peoples of the Americas for the sins, the crimes, and the offenses of the Catholic Church. Guess what? Those sins, crimes, and offenses that he apologized for happened at every one of these missions, including Mission Santa Cruz and Mission San Juan Bautista, the mission at which our ancestors were taken to. And just months after his apology, he canonizes Junipero Serra. Junipero Serra is the one that established that system of incarceration, of slavery, of brutality, of whippings, of the doctrine of discovery, which basically says that the indigenous people do not own the land. We are basically equated to those deers and those slugs over there. We use the land, but we don't own the land. And so whenever they come here, there's no ownership of the land. So those European nations, Spain, Portugal, primarily at the beginning, had the right to come in and take them. And they also had the responsibility to try to convert the indigenous people to be citizens of Spain and they had to convert to the Catholic religion. And if they didn't do that, they were to die. And that's very brutal. That's a brutal truth. It's estimated that under the doctrine of discovery and other papal bulls, that over 300 million people died. And 90 million in the Americas and 30 million in the United States died as a result of those papal bulls and the doctrine of discovery. That's a history that's never told. That's what the church must heal from. We recognize that we have to remove all symbols of those sins, crimes, and offenses that were committed by the perpetrators. We must not allow perpetrators to remain silent. That's why we're here today. This is the first step. Please stand with us as we go forward to get all symbols down and to get all symbols down and to have the truth told and to begin the healing for indigenous people. Oh. Next, I'd like to introduce Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez is the director of the American Indian Movement West, AIM West. He has worked tirelessly throughout his life to advocate for human rights and indigenous people's rights. Tony is an indigenous liaison at the United Nations who has opened the door for our tribe to speak on the floor of the United Nations. Tony is the one that I worked with to arrange my ability to go to the United Nations to speak against the canonization of Junipero Serra, to speak against recognizing the El Camino Real as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and on other topics. Today, Tony's joining us from San Francisco. Please welcome Tony.
Oh, greetings, my relatives. Today is a beautiful day indeed, and I welcome this occasion. Extend my hand in friendship. I come on behalf of the American Indian Movement and AIM West. And as you know, it's a movement. Today, AIM is a direction. And it continues, as we've seen in these past days, in these past years, the reclamation of our cultura, our ceremonies, and the land. And as we knew that the manifest destiny, the push from the east to the west, it only refined the art of killing and the genocide of people. And certainly California received the brunt of that. And there's a woman named Winona LaDuke who had said words to the effect, the only way of recompensating for land taken is to return that same land back to the people. And this is where we're at today. And to move away from the pain and into the beauty of what indigenous peoples have always had and are still willing to offer. We are moving into that era. We are taking down symbols, statues, flags, schools that have Indians as mascots, images and murals that depict us in a very romantic way. Yes, we are moving ahead together. And so today I'd like to sing you just a quick song to ask the Spotted Eagle to come and to listen to our hearts and our words and carry to the creation. Ya takaya heya makakue chieyo wambli glashkawa heya ya uelo aya kayo Ye takaya heya makakwe siyo wambli gleshkawa heya ya uelo aya kayo Ye takaya heya makakwe siyo wambli gleshkawa heya ya uelo aya kayo Ye takaya heya makakwe siyo wambli gleshkawa heya ya uelo aya kayo I sing that for the four directions and the four sacred colors of the pitiful two-legged. Thank you, all my relations.
Our next speaker is Julissa Lopez. Pineda. Julissa was a student here that met with that we were in that meeting with Sarah when we first had the opportunity to talk to the campus of what our vision was here in the future. She's a tribal member, and she graduated last year, and she's now working on her doctorate degree. We're very proud of her as a tribe. But I would like her to speak as a youth of the Amah Mutsun and also a past student of UC Santa Cruz. Please welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hi, friends. I miss everyone so much. Yeah, so I just drove in from Seattle yesterday, and no one knew I was coming. I wanted to surprise everyone, but when you show up and your elders ask you to speak or do anything, you don't say no, even if you don't have anything prepared. Yeah, so I do want to thank a lot of people, but before I do that, I just wanted to share a story of what it's like to be a student here and have no representation of your people on this campus except for this bell. And I passed by this bell a lot. It was a common route for me. I worked at the ethnic resource centers up there, which actually there is one mural of us in there, so that was like kind of a nice safe space for me. But yeah, just walking by and knowing that this is what's valued in society was really tough. But also knowing that I had a community behind me, not only like my tribal community, but students here at UC Santa Cruz and even the administrators, like they really supported this effort from the get-go. Sarah never like had a weird face. Like sometimes you tell people your ideas and they're just like, oh, okay, like we'll see what we can do. But she never like super responsive right away, and we just made it happen. It happened, and it's crazy that this was just an idea before that Val would talk about with me. He's like, let's see if we can get this mission bill going. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then we're here today, and I'm really thankful for this moment. And lastly, I would really like to thank my tribal community. They're what give me this drive to do things like this and really showed me to speak up for myself. Since I was a youth, Val has just been on fire, Nora has been on fire, all my elders have just shown me, what it takes to make this sort of thing happen. And now I'm getting my doctorate, like that's wild. Like, right. I mean, like if you know where we come from, like this is huge for us. This is huge. So thank you all for being here.
So next, I would like to pass the mic to Kat Wilder, who works as a volunteer assistant for our tribe and is going to introduce the next speaker. Kat.
Today is such a beautiful day, and the Amah Mutsun have been waiting for this day for a long time. It's an honor to be here with you all, and I want to recognize that today is not the end. It's a beginning, because these bells need to be taken down everywhere in California that they stand. These bells do not represent history. They represent the disfiguring of history, the cover-up, the whitewash of the atrocities, the terrible crimes of genocide that the Catholic Church, the Spanish state, and the state of California are responsible for. And I want to point out that there are 2 more of these bells on the city of Santa Cruz property. So the removal of this bell today only points to the much greater work that's to be done, and not just in taking down bells, but in confronting the ongoing legacy of colonialism. I am very honored today to introduce our next speaker, Kagan Holland. Where's Kagan? So back in 2015, Native people throughout California were deeply troubled because Pope Francis had decided to officially canonize Junipero Serra, the founder of the California mission system, to make him a saint and to hold him up as an example of virtuousness. Native people throughout California spoke out very strongly in opposition to sainthood for Serra and have been organizing for decades to try to stop this. Tribes from the areas of each of the 21 California missions wrote letters to the Vatican and issued statements opposing sainthood for this individual who was responsible for the system that brought absolute devastation to their ancestors. But the church decided to defy them and push ahead. So Native people throughout California were trying to figure out what to do to confront the church and make their rejection of sainthood known to the world. Kagan's mother, Caroline Ward, had a vision that came to her. She's a Tatavian woman from Southern California. She had a vision that she needed to walk from her ancestors' home village site to Mission San Fernando, where her ancestors were forced to walk. She decided to walk in their footsteps, their trail of tears, to honor them and to acknowledge all that they suffered and went through, to tell the true stories of what happened to them in this time when they were being so disrespected with the canonization. The more that she prayed on it, this vision grew, and she realized that what she needed to do was to recognize not only her ancestors, but all of the indigenous people of California who suffered under the reign of the mission system. So she set off to do that, and Kagan agreed to do it with her. In fall of 2015, starting at the mission in Sonoma, they walked 780 miles all the way to the mission in San Diego in a spiritual pilgrimage. At every mission, they gathered with Native people of the area to tell the stories of the atrocities and to tell the stories of the resistance of their ancestors. Kagan was outspoken about the injustices and lies that we encountered at every mission and tireless throughout the journey. Since returning to his homeland in San Fernando Valley, he's gotten more and more culturally involved with his tribe, and he drove all the way here from LA to see this bell come down. So please welcome Kagan from the Tataviam Nation of San Fernando Valley.
Hi everybody. Haminat, Netuanan, Kagan Holland, Netaviuk, Tetaviunga. My name is Kagan Holland. I'm a Sataviam tribal citizen. My family's village is in modern day Castaic. Chaviunga is now underneath what we would now see as Magic Mountain. Like Kat said, 2015 was a spiritual awakening for my mother and I, but also for our tribe, getting more involved in exposing the history of California, exposing the mission system, the Spanish colonization, and really reclaiming our indigeneity, reclaiming the stories of our people, and being able to tell those out loud. During our walk was the first time that our tribe gathered at the mission in celebration. Before that, our people saw the missions as something to be feared, something to stay away from, something we knew that had a lot of pain there. But through actions like this, through taking down these symbols, through exposing the true histories, we were able to confront these pains and these wounds that are, in our people's spirit. And I just want to say thank you so much to Val Lopez, to Kat, to Sea Lion Cotton, everybody who worked really hard for the last 2 years to get this bell down. It's hard to explain how important this is. These symbols, when we see them, they are just a constant reminder of our voicelessness. And, actions like this, really, it puts our people in a position where we can have some self-respect, have some, self-determination, and decide what we want to tell people about us. Only recently our people have been able to tell our own stories. So again, hard to explain how important this is. Thank you very much for letting me come.
Songs were not sung for over 500 to 200 years. They were illegal to sing. So if you can imagine to place yourself back when our ancestors were here, this is what you would have heard. When we sing, we're praying. This is our prayer song. This is how we pray to Creator, is in song, in love. We come here in truth. All of us stand here in our own truth. We stand here together, and we stand with all of you and with your truth. And one thing that I want my sister to say that really stuck with me, and if you could say it about the mission. Okay, so I'm gonna coin her, okay? She says, we're no longer in a mission. We are on a mission now. We stand together. We open our hearts. We have Valentine that helps us, that leads us. We have our sisters that come and talk. Our daughters that are going to school, that are alumni. My daughter, my niece. We are doing the walk. Now we're here to bring down this atrocity that happened to our people. And it hurts. They hurt for us to stand here. And that's what happened. They had to endure the pain, the genocide, the murder, the death, the illness, the rape, the displacement. Today, we have to travel back to home. That is not a good feeling. We belong to this land. Our stewards, they are taking care of the land right now. They are keeping Awaswas free of fire. They are keeping the homes here free of fire. They are taking care of you, the Amah Mutsun people. continue to take care of the people who live here in Santa Cruz. With that, we open our hearts and we sing and we ask you in prayer. Today is the solstice. Today is the highest day where the sun is at its highest point, where the Eagle Nation comes and takes all of our prayers. Not long ago, we were in ceremony, and we had to be in ceremony to help over 2,400 members, I felt, because they were thrown in an open pool-sized grave at the Holy Cross Church here in Santa Cruz. We're here for all women and children, all the women, life givers. Creator sends our water down to us. Mother Earth does not make the water. It comes from the heavens, from Creator. Women are life bearers. They can make the water for the womb, for the baby. All of us, all of you women are important. You men are also important. You guys have something for life as well. And we have to acknowledge that we have to honor our men. And our men have to honor us women. It's going to take both to honor each other, to love, to forgive. I say, and I come in a good way, and I open my heart. I am part of the Wishmak singing. This is my mentor, my sister, who's the singing teacher of song, of sacred song, who is keeping me and teaching me like that I have to do things and speak as well. So, in a good way, that we start this song. This song is the Creator song. This song means that when we come together and we come to Creator, that we stand in our own truth, that we're coming to Him and we ask that you help with our flaws, with our strengths, letting go of things that shouldn't be anymore. It's okay to let go of those things that are wrong. Let go of those things that hurt us. We don't have to carry those, but we have to take that action to do something. If we don't, then this is going to continue. Mother Earth is in a place where she needs help. And we're all connected to each other, and we have to take that stand now. So you guys please help me, sisters. Aho, and all to my relations as we begin. Ho. Hanika sakuna haruknish. Hanika sakuna haruknish. Hanika sakuna haruknish. Hanika sakuna haruknish. Ayo yokish amana herokeni. Ayo yokish amana herokeni. Hanika sakuna haruknish. Hanika sakuna haruknish. Hanika sakuna haruknish. Hanika sakuna haruknish. Ayo yokish amana herokenish. Ayo yokish amana herokeni. Hani Haruknish, Hanika Sakuna, Haruknish, Hanika Sakuna, Haruknish, Hanika Sakuna, Haruknish, Ayogish, Amana Herokeni, Ayogish, Amana Herokeni, Hanikas Hakuna, Haruki, Hanikas Hakuna, Haruki, Hanikas Hakuna, Haruki, Hanikas Hakuna, Haruki, Ayogish, Amana Herokeni, Ayogish, Amana Herokeni. Ho! We're gonna go ahead and let Val come.
Sarah, do you have anything else? If not, we can conclude.
No, just thank you for everybody.
Okay. We have some final words here. We are now going to be hosting a free lunch at the Arboretum to celebrate. All of you who are here are invited to attend. It will take place at the conference room at the Arboretum. Please talk to Kat or Sarah at the table with their hands up. And they'll give you directions if you need directions to the Arboretum. The Arboretum is set up, and we have some great food for you. And then we can take questions, or other speakers who are there can answer questions there, and be available for conversation or interviews, whatever you would like. And thanks everyone for being present with us today. And may this be the start of much more things to come.
You should just park in the car. Are you going to I was like, I think I wasn't, yeah.
Did you know all the speakers? Some of them, yeah. Before I get this, I'll just get one guy's name. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
It's the beginning of something really important. Yeah. It's been a long time coming, you know. But this is a big step. It's like one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Yeah, I am. I mean, the whole reason
So we're doing everything we can to help.
Wonderful.
And they really are. I see the Facebook posters and they're so beautiful. I said they're really well done.
Thank you.
Very good. Yes, we will succeed. We will succeed. And the tide is rising. Everything is coming together at the right time. Look how the governor just said that. Like everything is coming now. It's a bigger wave. You know, it's like a bigger wave.
Yeah, I thought they were chicks. I was like, okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here.
Yeah. We have a lot of work to do. So
You guys got my number. You got my number. I wrote it on Belle's list.
yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Marie.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah. Good. Glad to see you.
I'm glad to Yeah. Which one? Oh, yes, we did.
Okay.
We did. It's all natives.
Okay.
Yeah. If the animals can hang out for a little while longer, they'll be glad. You know, it's weird. It's a weird tone. The insects. We will.
Okay. We'll be heading that way too.